This is a Stock Trading Reality Podcast, episode 130.
I stuck my nose somewhere that even the smartest of people sometimes cannot figure it out.
This is the Stock Trading Reality Podcast, where you get to see the realistic side of a trader's journey. Get inspired and stay motivated by everyday normal people who are currently on their journey to trading success. His skin is the same thickness as an elephant. Clay Trader.
Yeah, I'll be the first to admit, and I've talked about this before in past podcasts, that when I first started, doing stuff publicly, the comments on social media or YouTube, they'd kind of get to me, and I'll say maybe hurt my feelings a little bit. I'll shoot straight. But now at this point, from like little tissue paper thin skin to frickin' elephant skin, I've learned that you just got to laugh at it or let it roll off your back. Sometimes I'm intrigued and I'll kind of go along with it. In full admission, in many cases now that I have a Clay Trader Mail video series out there, we'll put a link to that in the show notes. I do a little baiting just so I can create some content for myself. But yeah, for the most part, I have very thick skin, and there's nothing that can really be said to me that hasn't already been said several times before. And it is what it is, in the world of the internet and anonymity. I don't know what that word is. Ches hopefully can help me out. But when people can be anonymous and be, keyboard warriors behind a cell phone or a computer screen, all you can really do is just laugh. So to you as a listener, if you're thinking about trying to, put yourself out there in any way in life, and whether that be a business or just, want to start something where there's going to be some opportunity for random anonymous people to criticize you, just learn to laugh at it, because while they're sitting there typing up their trolling efforts or whatever, you're actually doing something. So you just got to kind of take it with a grain of salt. And elephant skin is definitely what my exterior is made out of. Ches, could you help me out with that word? Anonymity? You know what I'm getting at?
Yeah, but now you've got your word stuck in my head. Now I've lost it. I had it before you started saying yours, and now I just keep thinking of the way you're saying it, and I can't say it. Anonymity.
I think that's right. Yeah,
I think that's it. But it's amazing what people will say behind a keyboard and a computer screen and a fake alias online versus what people will actually say in person. It's like a no holds bar. But yeah, no, you pretty much nailed that. The internet is a great place for that kind of stuff.
Yeah, and it's amazing. Ches and I, we are trying. When the keyboard warriors pop up, I say, hey, can we interview on the podcast? That way we can hear your side of things. And it's amazing the excuses I get. Sometimes people don't reply back, and sometimes it's just so, to Ches's point, when there's nobody that's going to hold you accountable, that anything can go. So, but yeah, I'm going to keep trying. If we can eventually get one of these trolls or get one of these, conspiracy theorists out there to come on, we'd love to talk to them. So with that being said, though, last week was a great episode with Dim, and this week we're also bringing back another trader. Hamlet is his name, and he goes by Crusader in the chat room. And so for those of you that hang around the chat room community, I'm sure you've come across him before. So we are going to sit down with him, and he is... I said this during the podcast, and I'm going to say it, or during the interview, and I'm going to say it again. I'm pretty sure he is the most hardcore person in terms of figuring out his problems that we've ever interviewed, and that'll make more sense as you go through it. But he ain't joking around when it comes to wanting to get this down right and wanting to get his mind where it should be. So, Jess, this was a good, solid discussion, wasn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's, Hamlet has been trading for a good amount of time now, but just kind of some of the pitfalls he's gone through and, how he's personally worked through it. He's obviously very serious about it, and we talked about it a bunch. He's definitely got a passion for trading. So, yeah, it was an awesome interview.
Yeah, so without further ado, let's hear from Hamlet. Hamlet, welcome back to the show.
Oh, I'm glad to be back. Now, how you guys doing?
I'm doing well. Ches, how is Ches doing? I don't want to answer for you, Ches.
I'm doing well, but I got to jump in first. Last time we had Hamlet on was episode 79. I beat you, Clay. Nice try.
I had it. I was going to introduce the last time. So if you like a little bit more background on Hamlet, you can go and, like Ches stole my thunder, episode 79. Now, for the two of you, I'm not really a bone to pick, but I just want to confirm, Hamlet, you were at our Columbus meet and greet. And I know, a little birdie told me that there was a group of gentlemen that stayed out extremely late after the official meet and greet was over, and I don't know, little birdie, were you part of that group, Hamlet?
On the advice of our attorney, we can neither confirm nor deny those accusations.
Yes, I was part of that group. It was fun, man. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah, and it's not like you guys went off and did anything crazy, but yeah, I remember the next morning at breakfast, there was just some of us stayed up super late, and I was just thinking, wow, that's quite the motor you guys have to have stayed up so late.
I was impressed with myself because I hadn't slept at all on the red-eye flight all the way there, and then stayed up late with all those guys, and then I was just dead in the morning. I slept for like 12 straight hours. Yeah,
and it's not that you're old or anything, Hamlet, but I mean, you have a family, right?
Yes. It's just me and my wife now. But no, you're right. I'm used to going to sleep kind of early, around 9.
Right. My point being, it's not like you're some 18, 19-year-old college kid or anything. That's
absolutely, man. That was a late night. That was a late night for me too.
We were reliving our college days and high school days right there.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah, that's I mean, there's two things now that I remember Hamlet. Well, actually, three things. The first is I always remember, Hamlet, that's the guy that worked for ESPN for a while, so he's got some cool stories about that. Second, now became, Hamlet, that was part of the late night crew from Columbus. And then third, I remember seeing pictures of your Tesla that you drive, and I'm thinking that's a really nice car. So so that's kind of how I remember Hamlet now. For association, ESPN. He's got a good engine on him in terms of, I guess, pun intended, not only himself but with the Tesla. So, but was Columbus fun with you?
We had a lot of Tesla that morning. We just had a lot of Tesla talk, and I usually don't talk to a lot of Tesla guys because I'm usually like in the house trading or taking care of the business. So I said, oh man, maybe this will start like a conversation point. So I just posted a picture in there and talked to a few guys there about it. It was kind of fun.
Yeah, it was
a car guy.
Yeah, and that's a sweet looking car. I won't lie, it caused me to hop on Google and start to do a little Tesla research just because that is one slick looking car for sure. And now, for those listeners out there, maybe for community more so for community members, and of course anybody's always welcome to join the community, but would you recommend going to a meet and greet? Did you have a pretty good time at that?
Oh yes, absolutely. I loved it, and I can't wait for the next one. It was a lot of fun just meeting different traders overall, different retail traders, and just talking about different things that each one of us do, and kind of how each one of us looks for a different strategy, and it was just a lot of fun overall.
Yeah. Go ahead, Chaz.
I was going to say, and Clay, you even had enough faith to bring your wife. So, I mean, we're really taking strides here. I know we've talked about that before in other podcasts, but we're really moving past the worried about getting, stabbed or shot. So we're doing pretty good, I think. Good trajectory.
I mean, there's always the possibility that, one of these penny stock people, you shorted my stock, your video charts, the bat symbol. I mean, I guess one of them could always show up, but that's right. They would get jumped by the majority of other people there. So, I mean,
I can't wait till iHub organizes a 100-car march down to your next meet and greet and surrounds us and has picket signs and stuff. Yeah, that's good. I'll have to go on iHub and set that up.
Yeah, that would be pretty funny. But anyways, we could definitely just kind of reminisce about that because they really are a good time. And to kind of follow up on Hamlet's point, it really is cool just to be able to associate an alias from a chat room with the actual person who's behind the alias. And it's crazy how the majority of the time, the way their alias acts and jokes is just how the real person acts. So it's a good time. But Hamlet, like I said, you've already been on the show. We're bringing you back. And as we like to do, I certainly don't expect you to go through every little nook and cranny. But last time you were on, which was basically about a year ago, give or take, give us a nutshell of what got you into trading and, what you were doing at that point in time.
Back then, I started into trading. I was at ESPN. I think I talked about this last time. Kind of overall, I was there. I was not really challenged, and I really wanted. And I've always thought about the markets, but I always thought, might be a little too hard. Just for hearing other people, it was risky and things like that. And I just started looking into it and doing all this research. And then I actually just directly found your website, and I just started reading, and I bought one course, and that's how I started with robotic trading. And once I was kind of like into 2 courses, I started thinking about it and looking at the other stuff, and I decided to buy the entire CTU, and I went ahead and made that investment. It's just actually the best thing I've ever put my money on, because it's literally make me a lot of money, and it's just education it's the first thing you should do before you do anything else with money, or opening a trading account. You should definitely just invest in your education first. That's the first thing you should do. And I didn't. It was just pure instincts, to be honest. To just go and look and try to learn about something before I jumped into it. But full disclosure, I did not paper trade. Like I said, I just had $1,000. And I said, I had a pretty good salary, pretty good job at the time, just $1,000. I'm just going to open an account. I'm just going to think that's my paper trading. I'm just the individual that I need, kind of like the real thing. I really
skin in the game.
Yes, skin in the game. The paper trading thing, it really does not work for me, because I need to be mentally invested as well. And that's how it pretty much got started.
Okay, let me cut you off there, because you make you make a point, and I can see people grasping onto it. But your point is apples, and what they're grasping onto would be oranges. So I realized you heard, wow, this guy's, I'll let the cat out of the bag. Hamlet's hanging in there. He's doing well. Wait, so this guy's doing well, but I specifically heard him say he did not paper trade. Okay, that's true, but let's get a little bit more context. It was $1,000 small account. He had already invested into his education, so it's not like he's out there not knowing what to practice, and it's not like he's just making stuff up as he goes. He has a path to practice with. And then on top of that, he's got a job. So it's not like a situation where, well, geez, I just lost my job. I only have $1,000 to my name, and I definitely can't afford any education. But this guy said he didn't even paper trade, so I'm just going to start trading with this $1,000, and everything will be okay. Hopefully you as a listener can see apples and oranges here. So sure, he did not paper trade, but remember, there's more context behind not paper trading. So I just want to bring that point up, because it makes a good point in terms of, yeah, at some points, maybe you don't necessarily need to or want to paper trade. But the key thing here is Hamlet had a path that he was already on. He had invested in the education. So, it's I'm trying to think of an analogy, but if you're, just not practicing something. I was a CTU member before I even opened a trading account and started trading. Even though I didn't paper trade, but I was using that as my paper trading account kind of thing. But I was a CTU member before even getting the account. Yeah, I mean, Ches, you see that all the time too, right? People show up and do you see where I'm coming from, Ches, though, in terms of people grasping onto the not paper trading thing and then totally applying it to a situation that's much different than Hamlet's?
Yeah, definitely. It's Hamlet has a very, very unique situation in terms of the opportunity he has to do this, and with just kind of his life and how everything is structured. Most people don't have that luxury or opportunity, so no, I totally agree.
Yeah, so, but anyway, I didn't mean to cut you off there, Hamlet, but what were you trading? I can't remember. Did you always start off? I want to say you started off in options, but I could be totally wrong. So what were you trading, the last time we were talking?
I started with just equities, but I would do like sub 10, and I would do very small amounts, 25 shares, 50 shares, nothing more than that. And I did that for about 6 months, and I just kind of went between kind of break even at the end of the 6 months, to be honest, just between inconsistent, between winning and losing, trying to really figure it out, because I know some people think that there might be some special sauce out there or a special thing out there, but there's really not. I mean, you just have to learn the things that you teach and kind of apply them to the overall context of things. There's not a magic thing that you just do or take, and it's just automatically going to make you thousands of dollars. That's just not the way it works.
And I think, Clay, correct me if I'm wrong, it was the Eric podcast where he said the technical side of trading, you can learn it, but there's still that 50% of mental side. And I think that's what Hamlet's kind of saying, is that even if you learn a bunch of strategies, you still have to kind of put them into practice and almost fight your own demons. Am I summing that up kind of correctly, Hamlet, or no?
Yes, absolutely. And discipline takes a big part of it, because sometimes the trade might look great, and you might, everything might look that to be right to go long, for example, and it just might roll over, and you just got to have that risk reward safety net there too, by using stop losses and other risk reward things like RVR as well, things like that, to be able to manage your trade, I would say, properly.
No, and I appreciate you saying that, because, if you buy, Clay Trader University, invest in it, it's not like it's okay, first you do this, and then you do that, and then you do that, and then you do that, and that's the strategy that works for everybody. No, it's going to be, here's how to use charts, here's how to manage risk, here's how to gauge risk, here's how to do all this stuff using the tool. But then you have to take that, and, what Hamlet is, getting at, and which I fully agree with, is then you got to build something that works for you, because we've had it time and time again, and we see it all the time in the chat room, where somebody makes an alert, and then all of a sudden, in the lounge, people are talking about it. And here, somebody went short on the same alert and made money, and somebody went long on the very same alert and made money. So it's all about, what do you feel comfortable with? What applies to your strategy? What doesn't apply to your strategy? You say, well, how do I know what applies to my strategy? Well, that's what we teach at Clay Trader University, charts, how you can answer those questions on whether or not it applies to your strategy, or heck, what even is your strategy? So is that what you're pretty much saying there too, Hamlet?
Yeah. And I'm basically, I'm also saying that, the entire structure of your courses, they work great, but they work great in conjunction with everything, when you understand how I feel like some people just think that, I just need to buy here or sell here. That it's just like a predefined thing. So sometimes things are just not that black and white. I guess that's what I was trying to say.
No, that perfectly said. In other words, there's a lot of gray area in the market, and managing and navigating the gray area is what's going to determine whether you're successful or not. So yeah, definitely a good point.
But I'm a perfect example that your courses work, and every time I can talk about it and give them props, I will, because that's how I learned how to trade, and that's how I've made money for the past year and a half, 2 years, and basically, learning everything in your courses, and being patient and waiting for that opportunity, making sure that you're just not too early, and sometimes you're going to be too early, and sometimes you're going to be a little too late, but then that's why I moved into options, and I wanted to talk about that a little bit later. But it's just everything that you teach in conjunction with patience and just looking for the right opportunity and trying to avoid the emotions. In my experience, that's what has worked for me.
Awesome.
And it's been good.
Awesome. So we're caught up. When we talked to you last time, you were doing strictly equities. Is that correct?
Yes. I was just doing strictly equities and options.
Oh, and options. Okay. So
yes.
What got you, because you made the comment, we can talk about that a little later. Let's talk about it right now. What exactly kind of drew you into options? Equities we've talked about, but then what kind of caught your fancy and, just caused you to want to bring options into your trader tool belt?
Well, options, that's basically what I do now. That's all I do, basically options. And options allowed, it's so many strategies you can use. And it's just, for me and for my psyche of trading, it allows me to have a little wiggle room, like a bigger margin of error when I go long or when I go short with options. I don't need to be so precise on the price. I can pretty much concentrate on a web and the chart, and if I use the right strategy, that's been very successful, and it makes me money, and I love that part about options.
Now explain why exactly options provide you kind of these webs or these zones where you don't have to be exactly precise. Is it because you can almost kind of set your risk in advance with the various deltas or your size on those? Why exactly does that work better for options for you?
Well, for example, if let's say I'm playing a ticker and if I'm playing it straight up, just buying shares, if I'm playing a 10-cent move, I mean, basically you have to risk a lot of capitals when you're playing the stock straight up by buying shares. But buying options, you can just limit your risk and kind of upfront know how much, what's the max you can lose, which you don't have to lose that. You have to learn how to manage the trade, obviously, but that it's key to trading options for me. And also stop losses. I can have a little more wiggle room on the stop loss when it comes to option premium because they move slower. Even though the price of the stock might be moving a little fast, but option premium move a little slower compared to the stock. So, and that has to do with the delta and all that. But and depending on the option and the expiration date you pick and all that. But it's just if you combine, if you pick a strategy, you kind of combine different things to it. It just mitigates the risk for me, and mentally it just helps me. And I can with confidence either go long or short anytime.
And you pretty much brought a tear to my eye in the sense of that was exactly why I was trying to hammer on there, is the sense that Hamlet could be trading an option where if the stock moves literally $1 against him, and for some stocks $1 is big and some stocks $1 is small. If a stock moves $1 against him, his option might only go down against him maybe 20 cents, 30 cents. And obviously when he's picking his area to stop out, obviously it's much easier to lose, say, 20 cents versus, $1 on, say, 1,000 shares or something. That's a decent sized loss, but 20 is obviously a nice small fraction of that. But yeah, there's a lot of cool ways you can kind of utilize options, both from the long side and the short side for, advanced kind of options traders. So I'm glad to hear that, you've literally found what really kind of works for you. So obviously you said after your paper trading, you were kind of break even at best, but since then pretty much, not your paper trading, your small account, quote unquote, paper trading. First off, it's amazing. Most people lose a bunch of money first, and then it slowly comes to break even. So you already were doing pretty well and kind of grasped what was taught. And then you kind of mentioned that you have been trading for profit for, 2 years now?
For about a year and a half. I kind of hit a rough patch at the beginning of the year. It was which I wanted to talk about it a little later, but overall,
let's
a year
talk
and a
about
half.
it right now. Actually, that's so a year and a half profitable, but a rough patch because we don't want to have everything be little rainbows and butterflies and sweet old little grandma on a motorized cart. Let's talk. Let's keep it real, right? So I'm glad you want to talk about it. So yeah, rough spot, beginning of the year. I'll let you take it from here.
At the beginning of the year, man, there's something that happens to me when I go short that it's like this competitiveness or this like hard-headedness. I don't know. It's stupid. And to be honest, I even been to a psychologist to talk about it because it's
I love that because of your trading.
I'm so proud of that. Yeah, I'm so proud of that.
Yeah,
because of your trading, you went to a psychologist.
Yes.
That's awesome, man.
Every Monday,
if that's
man.
not dedication, I don't know what is. So yeah, awesome.
So it was just something, and it went on for about 2 months, and it was just awful. It was kind of in that torture chamber that we talk about. And I got caught up in one trade. I got caught up in that, going short on ES, and as everyone knows, the market's been ripping.
But that's futures, right?
Yes.
So how did you? Let's pause here on your rough spot. Where did futures come from?
Well, I just started looking at oil and looking at ES. I just asked for the permission, started looking at the charts, and they really move. The way they move is really technically sound. So I really like to trade them because I can also trade them after hours. I don't need to worry about any time frame or anything. You pretty much trade in 24 hours. And I especially started doing it because since I was working on my business, the regular trading hours were kind of outside of my range at that point. I said, well, maybe I'll look at futures. So that's how I started looking at them.
Okay. So the rough spot is coming from just your futures trading, or is it coming from anytime you go short? It doesn't matter if you're shorting options or stock or futures. It's just the idea of shorting. Is that where the main culprit was?
Well, there was different components to it. So futures move fast. So especially when you're new to trading them, they started moving fast for me, and also you can't get hard-headed in futures. It's not the same thing as trading equity. It's just kind of completely different. They move 24 hours, and the way sometimes when you short on them, I mean, they can just basically blow the roof off the top.
Yeah, rip your face off, right?
Yeah, because it's I can't even find the word how to describe it, but if you are future traders out there, you exactly know what I'm talking about. It's very frustrating, and if you're not disciplined, if you get hard headed, you will lose crazy amounts of money, and I lost a lot of money. It was very rough.
And while I think futures are very love-hate for many reasons, because first off, there are many future brokerages, and I'm also not, I wouldn't say I'm a victim, but I understand why it appeals to people, because first off, you can avoid pattern day trader rule without 25,000. There are other ways to do that, but this is a pretty standard one to do. You literally open the account and you don't have to, make sure it's a cash account or anything. You open the account, there's no PDT. So first off, people think, ooh, I can day trade with less than $25,000. Great. Here's the problem, though. While the margin might only be $500 a contract, the contracts in reality are worth like $100,000, and they move in like 12 or 10 point ticks. So imagine a stock where every time it moves a penny is worth $10 that you've either earned or lost. So to give these kind of names, more than a couple cent stop loss, you could be racking up substantial losses. And that's what I've done. In one day, I've lost more than $2,000, and I still had tight stop losses. And that was the problem. I was so risk conscious that I was being completely unrealistic with my stop locations. And I just feel like, kind of exactly what Hamlet said. I really don't recommend futures for most traders for one simple reason. I think they are a product that works great if you have a larger account. If you are comfortable taking $1,000 to $2,000 to $3,000 losses because your account is $100,000 or something, you can totally trade futures logically. But if you start with a $5,000 account, $3,000 account, and you're trying to keep your risk extremely small, don't get me wrong, you either nail a great trade or you're going to rack up substantial losses and almost go through this kind of like death by 1,000 cuts. And those cuts are actually not very small. Those cuts are very large. We know some people. We know some people who trade options and they can keep their losses under $10. That's not even feasible, really. You would have a one-tick stop loss in just about anything you trade for futures, and that's just not realistic. So I really always recommend them for people with larger accounts, but the appeal of them and how easily you can get into them and trade with this huge margin and huge leverage, it just most often leads to most people's undoing. I'm not able to trade them very well, so I stopped trading them, but it sounds like, Hamlet, you almost had the same situation as me.
Yes, absolutely. I just full disclosure again. My one day, $6,000, 1 day.
One day, wow. Was that because you just got stubborn?
Just
and
kept averaging down. Just kept averaging down with them contracts. So I didn't lose that much, but that's how much I saw red. So
so your unrealized at one point during the trade was 6,000.
Unrealized, yes, but I got 2,000 of that back. So overall, it's just about $4,000, and it was hard. It was really hard. It's nothing I want any other trader to go through. It's painful, but you just have to stay mentally tough and kind of say, look, it's a mistake, and just have to bounce back from it. And that's when I said I was gonna go back to therapy, and I was gonna start seeing this person again, trying to help me with with my trading, because if I want to do this for the rest of my life, man, I gotta be really good at it. There's a lot of people out there that want to do this.
No, absolutely. Now, I mean, I'm assuming Ches is fascinated too, but I mean, a lot of us have read trading psychology books, but you're literally sitting down with a psychologist. So, are you willing to kind of share like what was discovered, what sort of advice you got from the therapist?
Well, I also have ADD, so she thinks that this is the perfect job for me, but what she thinks is that I need to control my impulsivity and just kind of, if I get into a situation where I started to feel competitive, or just look at it as a regular job. Try to put the emotions aside a little, or maybe a lot, but kind of start by doing little by little, and kind of look at things from it's a job, and avoid the adrenaline rush, and avoid those type of things that make you kind of not be in the moment and say, look, I got to get out of here because this thing is going to crush me. I cannot be competitive now. Who am I competing with? Algos? That's ridiculous.
I like that. So don't treat, and I'm paraphrasing, but don't treat trading as a sport or any sort of competitive situation. Treat it as a job where a certain job is going to say, if this happens, do that. Is that basically what your therapist was really trying to convey to you?
Yes. And to basically treat it as a job, and to, she was trying to get me to do things so when I basically get hard-headed in a moment, when I'm in a trade that I just don't want to sell, and that I want to change my stop loss or don't have a stop loss, to just step away, rethink, step away from the moment, come back, assess the situation, think about it as a job. Avoid the adrenaline rush, avoid those kind of, like, because I told her that there are things sometimes in your head that are just, you can't avoid. It's just voices almost, but we're still working on it. But those are the things she's kind of talked to me about.
And I think she almost sums up the kind of things I try to bring up all the time, because it took me years to realize this, though. But, and Clay, I want you to weigh on essentially treating it as a job or treating it as a business. You almost want trading to be boring. And I've talked about this, I think, in my own podcast. I make more money being bored, sitting at this desk, almost like a 9-to-5. Granted, I don't have to sit here for 8 hours. But the more boring trading is, and the more mechanical, and the more your capital that's in your trading account is business capital, and not tied to I need to beat the market and I need to destroy the traders on the other side of this trade, generally the better you do. And Clay, obviously you've been doing this for over a decade. So is it safe to say that when you trade now, I mean, based on your live trading videos, I always get a laugh out of some of the comments in them. They go, Clay sounds like he's half dead inside, like he just doesn't even care or anything like that. And I don't think people understand that you totally care about making money in the market. This is literally your job. But at the same time, you understand the business. You've been here long enough where you're just doing what you do. It's as simple as that.
Yeah, that is one of my favorite comments. All right, you're clearly using a demo account because you're so calm and your voice is too calm. So that's clearly a demo account. That's not real money. It's like, well, okay, kind of a fair point, but at the same time, well, no. I mean, when you have a strategy, then you just follow the strategy, and it kind of is what it is. But yeah, you're absolutely right. And I love the word adrenaline, because we've used this a bunch. I've used it in courses and such. But if you enter a trade and then all of a sudden it's like, I feel like I'm on a roller coaster, or you're cliff diving, or you're bungee jumping, if that's the feeling you have when you enter a trade, you are not doing it right. You did something severely wrong, because you should not be filled with adrenaline. This is not like a thrill-seeking business. Now, maybe you're aware and you're like, you know what? Instead of paying money to go bungee jumping, I'm just going to turn on my computer and just gamble with my money in the market. That's fine. At least you're self-aware. You're not like pretending to be a trader or anything. But if you are trying to be a trader and you feel like you're going bungee jumping as soon as you put in that buy order, or as soon as you get filled, there's something very wrong. It should be very boring, and it should have that, again, going back to the word, the job component to it, where, yeah, it kind of is what it is. You got to do what you got to do. But you don't want to, your motivation should not be, I want to become a trader because I need some excitement in my life. No. That's the wrong motivation, to get into trading. And I also like, Hamlet, what your therapist said is, when adrenaline creeps in, then just, you can't really think right. Or in other words, that's where, being irrational comes into play. I mean, would you agree with that, Hamlet? When you're being filled with adrenaline, it's hard to think rationally, right?
Absolutely. And I struggle with it. I struggle with it all the time. And I know it's wrong. And it usually happens to me when, not at the moment I put the buy order or the sell order. It's just whether a few days, because I'm usually swing trading, so usually a few days later or something like that, it's when it either goes against you or even goes with you. That you just sometimes feel that adrenaline rush, and I just fight it so much because I know that's one of the problems I have. It's just due to my ADD and that other issues, but I just fight it. I struggle with it a lot, and I just advise against it strongly.
Yeah, and you're very aware of it. I mean, to sit here and listen to you talk about it, you're not like shoving your head in the sand, thinking, "Oh, I got it all figured out." You know the voices, you know when they show up, and you know that you have to fight them. And another point, Ches and I talk about time and time again. Just because you have temptations to break rules, just because you're feeling greedy, just because you're feeling competitive, where you want to get stubborn, that doesn't make you a bad trader. What's going to make you a bad trader is just being ignorant, not being self-aware, and then just going with it. But if you can recognize the voices as they're knocking on your door, then you can fight against them, and that's what's going to make people, a successful trader. Me, anybody. I mean, even if they've been in the market for 50 years, greed is always going to be there. Stubbornness is always going to be there. All these emotions will always be there because you are a human being after all. You're not a robot as much as we'd like to become robots. But the key is you got to be able to recognize it and be self-aware. And you're obviously, Hamlet, I'm just going to go ahead and say Hamlet is the most self-aware person, because we've never had anybody on the podcast that we're aware of, at least, that's gone to a therapist to talk things out and to, kind of realize what you've realized. So you said that was a dark spot, though. When did the light kind of start to come at the end of the tunnel? And when did you kind of come from the upswing out of that dark period from the beginning of the year?
Well, I realized that if I would have stayed disciplined, if I would have not had these kind of, I can just count them in my head. They're about a series of 4 or 5 trades where there have been large losses. And if I would have kind of kept it like I usually do, like when I follow my discipline, small losses, you can rack up a bunch of losses as long as they're small, and just keep working your plan. You're eventually gonna make that money back, and probably going to make 2 or 3 times more than what you lost if you just follow your plan that way. And I just feel like if I would have done that, my account right now would be 3 times of what it is, and I would have made this year 2 times more than what I'm up, and same thing last year. So what I've learned is that for me, I just have to let that loser go, because that 1, 2, or 3 trades a year where I gotten real hard headed, that thing has snowballed on me, and that's totally hurt me. And I know I can do better than that. So right. Basically, that's my biggest thing right now.
And I almost think that, while we're looking at it in hindsight, it's very easy to say, and anybody who is listening to this podcast and hasn't traded yet says, oh, it's just as simple as, following what you preach. I promise you, when money is on the line and you're trading, a lot of reason and logic go out the window if you go down kind of this dark rabbit hole of pretty much not listening and not being disciplined. But I'm going to tell you this, Hamlet, and this is just an outside source. You can take it or leave it, but what you had to go through is a rite of passage. And now that you're aware of it, now that you can look back at it and say, wow, my account could be 3 times larger, or would be 3 times larger, this is the time where now you will trade properly, and that account will start to grow at a nice, decent rate because you recognize it. A lot of people, I don't know if it's alcoholics or whatever, there's the denial phase. You're past the denial phase. You accept where your pitfalls are. You understand where your kind of system falls apart. And now that you recognize that, you are on like the sure track to pretty much destroying those bad habits and just kind of literally treating it as a job, like the therapist said or the psychologist said. So I just want to let you know, you kind of had to go through that. A lot of the times I tell people, if you go through the courses and stuff, if you actually follow it to a T, you'll do great. But, that 50% emotional battle that you'll always be fighting versus the charts, that's the one that takes time. And I always say that, pretty much the longer people survive trading, the more time they do it, the longer they stay in the game, the more comfort you kind of develop. And we talked a lot about this on the last podcast regarding comfort. I was with Dim. And the more comfort you develop, the less those big kind of nasty monsters with, 8 heads come roaring out and destroy your account value. Because you've been here before. You understand that you don't want to go back down that ES trade where you lose $4,000 in one trade. There's no need for that anymore. You did it, check it off the list, and kind of move forward.
Yeah, and
absolutely.
And I want to quickly comment because I did the same thing, which is awesome feedback on Hamlet's part. For those of you that have traded, if you've taken a big loss, go back and look at the loss and be like, okay, let me apply my real rules to it. Sure, this is all hindsight trading, but go back and just say, all right, let's just say that I was disciplined and I got out when my strategy said I should have got out. Talk about your mind just being blown where you're like, oh, wow. Yeah, I would still have taken a loss, but holy crap. Look at the loss that would have been compared to what actually happened. And like Hamlet said, the numbers add up amazingly quickly in your favor when you go back and you are honest with yourself about where you really should have actually gotten out with the losing trade. And I don't doubt for a second when Hamlet says I could be up 2 times more than what I am for the year. I fully believe that because you get hard-headed and stubborn, and a loss that should just be, whatever, a loss, it turned into something, to use what Chez said, like some 8-headed monster or something, and then it's crazy. So as a very practical tip that Hamlet said and that I can attest to, go back, look at your big trades, and then apply and be realistic. And I think when you look at the numbers and you'll think, holy crap, I need to just start taking the losses because it's not worth taking these 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 trades per year or whatever that totally destroys things. So that's an excellent tip on your point, or on your part, Hamlet, because that's something that I think can be very, very beneficial. Now, you had mentioned your swing trading options, but it sounds like you're also day trading futures, or you were. So I guess my question to you is, what is the breakdown of your current situation right now? How much are you swing trading and how much are you actually day trading?
But right now, I'm 0 day trading, no day trading, even though I look at charts almost 17 hours a day because I'm at home just looking at them, looking for opportunities. I do strictly options. Futures, I still do futures. I'm not going to give up, but I moved into futures options. Perfect for me. They move slower, way slower, and kind of my speed, and I look for opportunities there. I do gold and oil and ES. And then I look for opportunities in the equity market with options as well. Sometimes I might do a couple of advanced strategies. I'm still learning those. Haven't taken the entire course yet. Don't have a full grasp yet. But I've used like, for example, puts and things like that to protect positions and things like that. But I'm talking about the strategies where you the advanced strategities where you
right,
do
iron
the
condors, butterfly,
yes.
Yep.
So I'm very interested in those, but I haven't gotten into that point yet.
Now, I guess this is me being so. I guess I'll open it up, but futures options, is that pretty much the same as regular options, or is there a big difference there? Because I can't say I've ever looked at all. Futures options.
The option chain works the same way as any other regular option chain. It's just based on the movement of the contract. So
for context, Clay, and for listeners out there too, so while an option is worth 100 shares, a futures option is only worth 1 futures. So it's almost like you can almost really set the delta of one contract versus being, a one-to-one, straight up trading shares or just futures contracts. So they're only worth one contract and not 100 or 1,000, because that would just be insanity leverage that would totally blow people up in like one move. So they're worth one contract,
Exactly.
not 100. I just want people to be clear on that.
Okay, that does make sense, because talk about like a nuclear weapon type position for some new person to have, if that was actually the case.
Going from $100,000 one contract position to $1 million on one option. Yeah, you're just begging for people to blow up if that was the case.
They move much slower. Those options, and to be honest, the main reason I trade them, because they move these futures. They move so beautifully technically. Sometimes they respect those support and resistance so well, and if you know what you're doing, you can make pretty good money. If you know what you're doing.
Nice. Okay, so let's do this then. Walk us through. It doesn't have to be a futures options trade, but one of your swing trades that you've done. I guess walk us through just from point A to B. What were you looking for? How did you structure the trade? And that way it gives listeners just an idea of kind of how you're approaching the market right now and how you're putting together these profitable trade plans.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll just give you actually a real example that I did.
Yes, please, a real example. That would be fantastic.
It was yesterday. I looked at, usually I start with the 30-minute, 60-minute daily and weekly. I just go through those, look for support and resistance. Then I'd like to look at the RSI. I pay close attention to the Bollinger Bands, see if they're overextended. Main thing for me, what's the overall trend? I need the context. What's been going on here? And I usually find that in the weekly and daily, since I'm going to swing trade it. For example, I'll American Airlines. I've traded that a couple times. I trade that with obviously calls or puts. I usually on that one just basically, if you look at a daily chart, I think I bought one. I bought 5 calls about on the 27th, and then I went on the run up all the way to about 54. So there I was pretty much looking for just continuation of that bull trend. It was just a flag pull consolidation, and it was,
right at the 50-day moving average there. The 27th.
Can you hear me? Sorry.
Yeah. No, I was just saying that that I can see. You said you bought on the 27th, which would make sense because not only everything that you said, but it's also you got the 50-day simple moving average sitting right there too.
Yes. I'm sorry. It's just my earphone went out.
So you're out of that trade though right now with the American Airlines.
Yes, I'm out of that trade. I actually sold at at because I knew the all-time high was 54 and 54.40, something like that, and I got out at 54. Now I'm back in it. I waited for the pullback, and I'm back in it. I got back into it last. Let's see here. I got back into it on the 27th. And now I'm in it for a swing trade. It's pulled back a little bit. I'm still up on it. We'll see what happens. But it's just that's what options do. They allow me to stay in the trade for longer, and I can swing trade with confidence without having to worry about stock crashing down on me a couple of points and my account being down a tremendous amount. Because I like to do lots of 1,000 shares. So for me, it's perfect if I just do between 5 and 10 contracts. That's where I work for.
And what is your average hold time? I mean, are you holding for weeks, for days? What do you think your average kind of patience level needs to be for your strategy? I
would hold for three weeks. If I would maybe hold for a month if it's a monthly option. But I try to buy far out as far as the date, just for the theta not to affect me too much. So I tried to avoid the theta a little bit by doing that, and then And then that's pretty much that's kind of the course I take on that.
Awesome. So, just for our listeners here, confirm that. So you personally, I want to kind of go into more of an overarching life situation here. You own your own business, correct? Outside of trading the market, right?
Yes. I have me and my wife, we own a small car rental business where it's not a regular car rental. We just do 6-month contracts with Uber drivers in 3 cities. Do Philadelphia, we do New Jersey area, which is Newark and Elizabeth, all that area right there, and then we have clients in Boston as well.
Right. And so here's my question to you. If you had to guess, well, actually, I guess I just need to ask flat out first. Are you taking withdrawals out of your trading account almost as secondary income, or are you just kind of accumulating and snowballing your trading account to make it larger?
I don't touch it to be honest. Just kind of I'm leaving it in there. I have 2 accounts, so I have my regular trading account, and then I have an investment account, which I took the course that Clay talked about, investment and things like that, and I'm doing that on that other account. But no, I do not withdraw any money.
Gotcha.
Nice.
Okay. So do you have plans to eventually withdraw from that account? Are you trying to get it to a set amount, or are you just trying to make that account as large as possible? So where I'm really trying to go here, and this will probably help because I'm just taking a long time to get to the point here, is do you have plans to start using trading as almost supplemental income to the point where you're going to be pulling out monthly withdrawals or something like that and essentially paying yourself?
Yes, I'm right now. I'm kind of look at it as a startup business where I just reinvest everything back into it, and essentially I want to live off of it. I completely want to live off of it. I want to sell my Uber business and just completely live off of trading. Kind of have a big portfolio basically, and just manage it myself. But yes, that's eventually my goal.
So, in other words, there's a master plan here. There's an overarching
the long game.
Yeah, the long game. There you go. You're not just taking it day by day. You know where you want to go. It's just a matter of waiting to get there, which again is a good recurring theme that we talked about last week with Dim. Sure, it may not go as fast as what you want, but that doesn't mean that it can't happen. So I guess how are you feeling about your current trade? Are you happy at the rate it's going, or confidence level? I mean, where are you standing mentally right now?
Right now, I'm happy to where I'm at. I'm confident. Like I said, at the beginning of the year, lost a little bit of confidence. Got a little tough. But I got mentally tough and went to talk to some people, and that's helping me. And I think right now I gain a lot of that confidence back, and I'm starting to be myself again from last year. Last year I had a tremendous year. I grew my account for almost 72%. And sometimes you hit bumps on the road. You just got to get back up and keep going. But this is what I love to do. It took me 29 years to find what I really loved. I'm 31 now. I've been doing it for 2 years, but it's just been incredible. I love it. I mean, it's my whole thing. I really do enjoy it.
He's got the passion.
Yeah, there we go. Another reoccurring theme for sure. I guess my kind of final question, looking at the time before we wrap things up, is now you said you stare at charts for 17 hours a day. So is there like a prime time when you find yourself structuring these trade plans, these swing trades, or is it kind of just whenever it happens, or is it something where, in the morning you're trying to run certain scans, or in the evening? So I guess as a business owner, walk us through your normal routine of things as somebody that has a quote unquote job. But where are you fitting in, construction and, scanning and all that sort of stuff?
Well, it's throughout the day. Mostly my scanning is in the morning, and at the close. I want to see how things close, how things open. But I'm basically just have a little portable setup in my living room. I have 2 pads, constantly have ES up on the 30-minute, and I take it with me everywhere, literally. and I have another pad where I have the 60-minute up of the ES constantly. So I'm always looking at that, and then during the day, I'm looking for good levels of support on something that would. Basically, I'm waiting for things to come to me instead of chasing them too, because I used to do a little bit of chasing as well, and that's been also a big difference too.
I swear, us as traders, we're like drug addicts. You're like, I used to do a bit of chasing. Yeah, oh yeah, you chase too. Yeah. And I struggle with that stubbornness too. Oh yeah, you have that stubbornness too. Ches, we sound like freaking drugged, because I totally, when he said I used to do some of that chasing, I'm like, I know exactly what you mean. I mean, it sounds like
y'all got any more of that chasing? Yeah, y'all got any more of those stocks I can chase? Yep. Yeah, we do sound like druggies.
Yeah, it's funny. You say certain things I can totally relate, but somebody that has no idea what you're talking about, it's just like, you're doing what? But that's good stuff. So, I mean, do you have anything else before we kind of wrap things up that you wanted to touch on or share? Or I guess I don't want to just take the ball from your court. I'll keep it in your court here for a few more seconds if there's something else you wanted to talk about.
No, pretty much just to any new person out there that wants to trade or wants to be in the business and learn. I mean, it's just dive in and purchase the courses, because they will help you. And I'm not getting paid here.
Okay, I was going to say, make sure you disclose there's no affiliate marketing or anything.
There's no marketing.
Mine shares count.
Yeah. I mean, he's getting some worthless shares of penny stocks, but that's besides the point. But actually, I did want to bring something up, and I'm just curious on your thoughts. So you'd mentioned that last year you grew your account 72%. Awesome. That's great. And then all of a sudden, at the beginning of the new year is when kind of you had these stubbornness problems and you had these issues. Do you think that success that you'd had the previous year was kind of a driving force between, causing some of this stubbornness, because you're coming off this awesome year, it's a new year, you want to get off to a great start, and then all of a sudden, things aren't going exactly. Do you think that had maybe anything to do with it too?
Maybe a little bit, maybe a little too overconfidence, but to be honest, I think what happened was I went away from my bread and butter. I went away from options.
Yep.
And
you went to futures, right?
Yes. I stuck my nose somewhere that even the smartest of people sometimes cannot figure it out. That they control trillions of dollars. So it was tough. It was a reality check.
Then that makes sense, and I think I'm going to try to stand firm. I would argue in a court of law that the reason you had enough confidence, to your own self-admission, your overconfidence, I think some of that probably came from the fact of, hey, I just grew my account 72%. I got it figured out. I'm really good. So let's just go and do futures. And then you stuck your nose someplace you shouldn't have gone. So I think that the other thing to just be aware of is, just because you're being successful doesn't mean that you need to go and stick your nose someplace else. I mean, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. So I think that'd be another good lesson. And I'm talking to myself, right, too, and everybody else, that I think that'd be another lesson that we all can learn from your experience, which, thank you very much for sharing. So on that note, we will wrap things up. We'll definitely have to have you back at another point in the future. You're always fun to talk with. And like I said, I've met Hamlet in Columbus. He's a good dude. He's fun to hang out and just shoot the breeze with. Not one of these awkward people or anything like that. So he's totally a good guy, and I thank you for coming on. And Ches, I don't know, did you have anything else before we head out?
Nope. Pleasure, Hamlet, and I'll make sure I bring some caffeine pills for the next meetup so we can stay up until whatever hour of the night again.
Absolutely, guys. It's been great. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, and thank you again for taking time out of your day. So for you as listeners, the final few things before we go. If you're listening on YouTube, make sure to check out the rest of the channel. Lots of other things besides podcasts, live trade videos, quick tip videos. We've started a vlog series, so make sure to check out the YouTube channel, and hopefully you decide to subscribe. If you're listening to this on the website itself, click that share button, leave us comments. We will read and reply. And then finally, if you're listening on iTunes or any of the other podcast players, please subscribe and leave us a rating, especially on iTunes. That really helps Ches and I out quite a bit. So thank you to all of you as viewers. We will see you back for another episode next week.
This has been the Stock Trading Reality Podcast. Thanks for taking the time to hang out. To learn more about Clay and the Clay Trader community, including the trading team, premium training, and more, visit claytrader.com.